Long ago, in a primitive world, before the birth of our civilization, there was a vast continent covering what is now the Atlantic Ocean. This was the lost land of Atlantis.
That's trash.
Hello, welcome to That's Cool, That's Trash, the podcast where we watch a psychotronic movie online, and then we get together on Skype to break the crazy down. And this time around, we've got the cousins back, Jacob.
Hello.
And Seth.
Hello.
Hey, you guys were last here for Demon Cop, remember?
Oof. Oh,
yeah.
How could we forget?
Yeah.
No forgetting that one.
No.
It was that was towards the end of the original run of the show, the pre-COVID revival episodes, and that one has a special place in my heart, if I'm honest with you guys. I love that one.
You loved it.
And I love how much Jacob didn't love it.
Yeah, I did not love it.
Like the bewildered expression on your face during that whole call was a treat.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Have I had either of you guys on since we've done the revival here? I don't think I have.
Not since the revival, no.
No.
So I like to just spend a little time at the beginning of these episodes talking about how you're faring in the new world. Jacob, how is this affecting you?
Well, not a lot of work. I'm not able to work a lot. No more gigs. No more stuff like that. I was in school for a little bit, and now I'm just going to try and find some work when things quiet down a bit, I guess. So, yeah, Alicia and I have just been home mostly, and just trying to stay sane.
How?
I've been watching a lot of movies. Been doing the stereotypical like deep closet cleans and comic organizing and stuff like that. Yeah, just trying to keep busy. When it's nice outside, we make a little tent outside with a big awning we have and a bunch of fabrics, and so we just kind of hang out in there and yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say that you're making it sound like it's all very low key and subdued, but I've seen you and your wife's Instagram feeds, and when it is nice, I was gonna say you do have this obscenely cool oasis set up in your backyard where you can just sit and read old DC comics, which makes me really jealous.
It does seem awesome.
And drink iced drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, looks fun. And Seth?
Well, we've got little kids, right? 2 boys, 6 and 11. So we're in that space in lockdown. It's sort of like there's, you kind of have like big territories, right? You're either single or you're with somebody. You either have kids or you don't have kids. And then you kind of break it down from there. But we're in the space, we're in the house with the boys, and there's no school, of course, and we're staying home. So it gets a little crazy. It's good overall, I would say. I've been very busy, so that's fortunate. My job has remained just as busy as ever. So I'm happy. I mean, I'm thankful for that, for sure. And, the fact that we're both here and, Jeannie's kind of able to deal with the boys for the most part, and I'm kind of able to handle work. And then we, instead of having to drive home for an hour and a half, I'm just home, and then we can do that. So that works out pretty well. But, we're trying to just take it one day at a time. A lot of emotional space is needed right now for everybody. Yeah. For everybody. It's just a little extra tether is what seems to kind of be helping us get through things pretty much.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. We've had some ups and some downs, and, we're a family of 3 with a tween as one of them. And there's definitely been some times we're at each other's throats for a day, and then we kind of back off, and then people are kind of doing their own thing for a while, and you join up to have a meal, and then you kind of drift off, and then you do some forced activity like watch, Hitchcock movie or whatever and come together and do. It's very weird how volatile it is and how just quixotic and mercurial. It's just it depends on any given moment. It's just like, I don't know how the dynamic is going to change or whatever.
Yeah. Right.
Well, I'm glad to hear that you can still work from home. Yeah. I'm having a difficult time with that just because there's some projects I can do with existing footage in my job, but a lot of the stuff is new stuff that I have to do. And so we're basically being tasked with producing and directing and shooting these things remotely.
Yeah. We're dealing with that
Skype
too. Yeah.
and Zoom and Ring Central.
Right.
And then there's an asterisk by every project of when the world starts again, you're going to reshoot these properly. So I'm literally just doubling everything I'm doing right now. And I'll be doing it again 6 to 12 months from now.
Yeah, we hope, from your lips to God's ears.
Yeah.
And we'll see, we'll kind of see how things change because we're dealing with that too. Video production, TV production, and, clients who want new content and trying to figure out how to do that. We're doing little production kits, sending production kits off to people who are in their houses, and we'll have a director on Zoom and, all that kind of stuff. And it gets pretty elaborate, but
yeah. No, I made a video that goes with the wireless lab set. That's like, how does mic yourself for wireless? Blah, blah, blah. It's like me in my living room. It's so fucking weird. It's like, I can't believe I'm doing this.
Exactly. We'll have a guy in his apartment who's a lighting director who will be on the call, with the same copy of the lighting stand. Okay, turn this knob and bend it like this. And
mirroring it on yours, do what I'm doing. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're sending light kits to people.
Yeah, well,
you're doing real stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So ours, I guess our stuff's mostly placeholdery. So it's just we're doing the whole, turn off the other person's visual on your screen because human nature is to make eye contact. We don't want that. Look directly in the green light.
Right.
Minimize that.
Right.
Have the light be just above facing you, all that shit. We have a half an hour built into our time schedules of helping. Okay, there's a Funko pop figure in the background on your shelf of Boba Fett that can't be in the shot, so get the Boba Fett out of there and then put a dictionary there and all that shit. Yeah,
definitely the same thing. That whole same thing for sure. For sure. And there's a lot of asterisks. There's a lot of when we get back to normal, and it's there's a lot of meantime to plan for as well. So that's kind of what we're doing too. I think for our clients, it's not so much the sense of we'll just do this now and then do it again for real in a couple months or 6 months or a year, whenever we can. It's more no, we need something now. We're going to get it out. And it feels like it's going to be a fairly significant shift towards, kind of low key user generated content, homemade content. I think it's going to really adjust things down in terms of, expectation of production value, budgets, all that stuff's going to go down.
I had 4 or 5 trips planned, right? And a lot of those were in addition to getting B-roll, in environments and interviews. But, people are realizing now, once the world starts again, it's not going to be the same world. The B-roll, we're saying, well, we don't want to put the stuff out because with people via Skype because it's going to be dated in 3 years. But it's but if we go and get B-roll, it's 15 students in a classroom spaced out and a teacher with a mask on. That's also going to be dated.
It's going to be real weird.
Hopefully, right? You're saying from your lips, right?
Right.
Hopefully we go back to something normal, but that might be the new reality for all we know.
Right.
So yeah, it's a strange time.
Yeah.
Well, glad to hear you. How are you? Being a teacher?
How am I being a teacher?
How is it going with distance learning? Are you helping with any? I mean,
with the kids at home, homeschooling or whatever?
Yeah.
We did so the first couple weeks it was, we were committed and the school was totally caught flat-footed, which probably happened in most school districts, but it was the kind of thing where it was okay, all right, we're going to the night before we're going to go print out all our worksheets, and we've got this book and that thing and this resource and blah, blah. And like, we're going to put this together. And we really had kind of the schedule down, and I would sort of jump in because I have some flexibility with my hours. So, you know, Jeannie be in there for a couple hours. We'd do like 2.5, 3 hours of school time. And then we'd go do physical activity, and then we'd have lunch, and then we'd do like an outside thing or creative project, you know, structured, like we're going to shower. And that worked pretty well in the sense that we just kind of would trade off. And like, if I had a break, I'd jump in for an hour and, you know, do something or whatever. And then after, I'd say like 2.5 weeks, maybe 3, but probably closer to 2 weeks, like that kind of started to fall apart a little bit.
Yeah.
And it just became, the school kind of started to put more resources out, and they sort of started to institute calls with teachers. So the school kind of stepped in to create some structure, and we kind of just let that be the structure.
Oh, well,
to a certain extent. I mean, we're not really the model parents. Hi, Renee. Hi, so nice to see you.
There's Jacob in the dark like Colonel Kurtz.
I know, right?
So good to see Seth's face.
Oh, I know. Hello. It's been a long time.
He says hello. It's been a long time.
Hi.
So, you know, so now it's kind of, you know, I check some homework if I need to. I try to answer questions if I get. It's not that different from what it was before. I didn't have a ton of visibility into it, and if there's a question, I'm happy to help out. And of course, I'm interested. Certain projects come up or certain things come up where it's kind of more in my wheelhouse, and I can kind of jump in. But I'm not very proactively involved in the homeschooling. On the other hand, work has been super busy, like I said, so there hasn't been a ton of ability for that anyways.
We're hitting, in my household, my kid's like kind of a little bit young for her class, so she's going to be 13 soon, but we're hitting that threshold of like where math drops off for me.
Yeah.
Like I was never a mathematically inclined person in the first place. Like math was a major source of anxiety for most of my life in schooling. Mm-hmm. And until I went back to grad school and learned how to teach kids math, like in the proper way, I didn't understand like, oh, multiplication is just repeated addition. No one ever told me that.
Right.
They just said 3 times 3 is this, 3 times 4 is this, like just drill, right? Rote knowledge. So like I was an elementary school teacher when I did teach. So she is now almost in high school. So like she'll come to me like, hey, this equation's imbalanced. Like, how do I improve the blah, blah, blah? I'm just like, I don't know.
I got nothing.
And she doesn't believe me, right? She's like, no, I need your help. No, I literally do not know how to do this. I have no pride here. I'm not ashamed. I'm being honest. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can do language arts all day.
Right. Certain things I all day long, but I know my kid's in 5th grade and I'm starting to encounter some of that. So,
yeah. So we are here for a specific purpose.
Yes.
Besides just wanting to see your beautiful faces and catch up with you guys, which is why I started the show again. We're here to talk about a director's film that we have seen in one of his previous efforts. Mm-hmm. I believe like a year and a half ago, maybe we watched Death Run, a.k.a. Mutant City by Michael J. Murphy.
Right.
Which was, if you haven't heard that episode or seen the film, it was a post-apocalyptic thriller that was a very low-budget kind of passion project by this UK director. The cool news is that he I believe he actually passed away in the last few years, but before he did, he put his entire catalog on YouTube free. I think the channel on YouTube is called like Merlin, like Murlyn, maybe films.
Just
Merlin.
One N, yeah,
just one
N.
Correct. Murlyn films. So all of his stuff is available, and he made. I mean, this includes like his what's that called? Juvenalia, right? Like, he has. I watched Atlantis City of Sin that was made in 1966/67. That was his prototype for the film we're watching today, which was made in 1991, which is just Atlantis.
Yep.
So, I mean, he put everything he has up. He also put all the featurettes. If there were DVDs of something, he would include all the featurettes, all the behind the scenes, and director and cast commentaries. So there's an exhaustive amount of Michael J. Murphy stuff. And I still feel like he's a largely unknown director. Jacob, do you get that impression?
I absolutely get that impression. Like, and just from watching a bunch of his movies now, and I'm a big fan. And yeah, it's strange that I'd never heard of him. No one that I try and talk to about these movies has ever heard of him. Like, yeah, he's still relatively unknown.
That's interesting. I feel like he had some, just judging from some of his interviews that I've seen on his page, it seems like he had a little bit of success in the VHS era of like foreign markets and just kind of like getting a good cover and some decent copy on the back and a couple good stills and tricking some markets into buying these things that seemed a little better than they were.
Yep.
But I don't know what film that will. Like, I feel like, there's always one movie that was his kind of like, this is the one, right? Like, Japan got into this for some reason. Like, I don't know what that film is for him. The Hereafter.
That's what I was going to say.
If I had to guess, it would be The Hereafter.
Oh, because it has the kind of exploitative cover that I guess has nothing really to do with the movie at all. And so I've read in a few different places about that.
Yeah, if I think people are talking about a cover that looks like if you've seen is it Romero and King's Creep Show? It looks almost like the Happy Father's Day corpse. Is that the one you're talking about? The Hereafter cover, like
yeah,
rotting corpse with a skeleton, like skull. Like, it's very lurid and like 50s horror comic kind of cover. And I watched some of the movie on YouTube, and I ended up kind of clicking through it and didn't see that anywhere on there. And I was a little frustrated. Not that that's new to this genre of filmmaking, but yeah. So I feel like we enjoyed Mutant City, Seth, right?
Mutant City was pretty great. Yeah, pretty great.
But one thing I've noticed is that Pandemic Brain is a lot like Weed Brain for me, which I also call Jane Brain. It's just kind of my mind's a piece of shit. I don't remember stuff so good anymore because of stress.
I understand.
Can you vaguely? This is honestly not a setup for the listener. Can you remind me a little bit about Death Run?
Yeah, so Death Run is the son of the scientist and his girlfriend, and the scientist's mom sort of like cryogenically freezes them. They wake up, it's like whatever, 20 years later, and it's the post-apocalypse now, and they get kind of chased down by that motorcycle gang out in the woods, and then they get taken to the little city kind of thing where the Messiah lives, who's also one of the actors in this movie.
Which is a wrecking yard, essentially, right?
Yeah, basically. It's kind of a bombed out village in the English countryside kind of thing. And they basically get set up where the hero meets, like, in prison, meets the buff dude who then trains him.
Oh, yeah.
And there's the girlfriend who kind of meets up with, like,
is there an obstacle course at the end?
Yeah, that's the end.
Yeah,
that's Death Run. It's the whole obstacle course. That's
I remember this now.
The cannibals eat his girlfriend along the way, and her face
that's
cuts
right.
off. Yeah.
And that was one of my few spoiler warnings ever in the run of the show, because that came out of nowhere, right?
It really did come out of nowhere.
Okay. You painted a picture. I remember this now. Sorry, it was a little fuzzy. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. And I remember thinking, we talked about how much we liked that, right? We all kind of liked it.
I loved it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of into, what would this guy do with the concept of Atlantis? Because Atlantis is fascinating.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Here we are. Ask and you shall receive.
There on the YouTube channel for Merlin Films, there are 2 making of Atlantis shorts, and they're both about 6.5 minutes. Mm-hmm. So they're very brief. So I have a little inside info about how this was made. But I get the impression, Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong, that this didn't actually get a proper release, or he was hoping it would get picked up in a foreign market, and it just didn't really take off. And essentially, it sounded like he was saying, me uploading this to YouTube is kind of the worldwide release. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely what he was saying. And yeah, it just seemed like it kind of fell through the cracks, or a distribution deal didn't go down. And then, yeah, it just kind of, until it was released on YouTube. How long ago was all that stuff uploaded? Like,
it looks like the dates are mostly like mid tens. Like,
yeah, well, because he died in 2015. So,
yeah.
I think most of it is, from around, 2009, 2010 and up.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Okay. So this is where we traditionally, so we've given you, how you can find the film if you want. So if you want to watch it before you listen along, go ahead and do so. It's easy to find and it's legal. But we're going to press on here and talk a little bit about the movie itself. I have many thoughts and feelings. But I feel like Jacob really pulled this film into his breast and nurtured it and suckled it. Mm-hmm. So I think maybe you should do the broad strokes for the folks that don't want to watch 80 minutes of Atlantis.
80 short minutes, by the way. It's not a long movie.
No, first I would obviously recommend that you watch Atlantis, because I thought, like I said, not to be a spoiler, but I really loved it. And compared to Michael J. Murphy's previous films, this is pretty big budget for him in a lot of ways. There's a lot more intricate costumes and sets. All these things can have quotes around them, obviously, because this is not a high budget affair. But for a Michael J. Murphy movie, this had a bigger budget for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think that just the look of the film kind of had it's definitely of the late 80s, early 90s, kind of a lot of teased hair. It kind of has at least the surface dwellers kind of have a little bit of a Renaissance fair vibe to them.
Yeah.
And so basically it takes place long ago, before our civilizations. And there was a continent called Atlantis. That's where the Atlantic Ocean is. And
I just got that.
Yeah. And for some reason, the surface is contaminated somehow, which I'll say is a kind of a theme for him.
Yeah.
And the city of Atlantis, definitely a Murphy trope. The city of Atlantis is underground. It's powered by these crystals that are mined by the surface dwellers who are captured and enslaved.
Where are they taking him?
To the crystal mines.
But why isn't he set free?
None of us will be set free again. You'll find out soon. Our training starts tomorrow.
Training?
We're trained to fight. To kill each other. Best we can hope for is to be a slave in the crystal mines.
My sister's here. She followed me through the wall of light. What will happen to her?
Why don't you eat something? You need to be strong now.
There is a queen who seems to be in charge. Her name is Queen Antea, but actually there's a guy called the Master who is in charge, who has the best costume, definitely.
Yeah.
Green, reptilian, strange. And his name is Phil Linden, and he's actually the Lin in Merlin. He is Michael J. Murphy's producing partner.
Okay.
And is in a lot of the movies, but he definitely has worked on all of them. And he kind of plays the overlord of Atlantis, and he's called the Master. Under him is his high priest, the high priest of Atlantis named Sartor. And he's played by
pronounced Sartre.
Sartre, yeah. he's played by Patrick Oliver, who was the Messiah in Death Run.
I recognized him for sure.
Yep. Couple other cast members crossed over too.
Yeah, 4 or 5 of them. Most notably Debbie Stevens, who plays the Crystal Child, who was Barbara in Death Run.
Right. Okay. That's right.
And where should I go from here? Should we just start talking?
I think you got it. I think you've set the world up.
Nice.
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I think it's kind of interesting to note, because you alluded to it, is in terms of setting up the world, the surface is essentially sort of Renaissance festival peasants in this
sure.
kind of farming village sort of thing. And then also they share the surface with mutants, right?
Yep.
People who have, what was the thing that he said? And this is, I think, almost the exact, it was they carry no contamination, or they suffer from contamination. Contamination, that was, we noted, a thing. So you got the surface, which is basically peasants and mutants. And it's possible that it got alluded to that the mutants are there because of the pollution that the underground city releases to the surface, but I'm not sure if that's real or not.
That is my takeaway.
Yeah.
Is that the crystals that are required to keep the lava in check and
That's
run
correct.
the city produce a byproduct that they exhaust onto the surface world,
Right.
making the surface untenable place to live unless you're Creon and his people.
Yeah, somehow some people are fine, but some people are not. Then underground, you've got sort of the city, which is
15 people.
Right.
Yeah.
And the center of the mythic, legendary Atlantean civilization. And then and then below that you have the mines, right? So it's like these sort of three levels. But when we think of Atlantis as this amazing mythical advanced place, in this imagining, it's actually subterranean.
Yeah, I feel like the three of us. I mean, Jacob turned me on to Zechariah Sitchin. So I feel like my concept of Atlantis is a little more that kind of elevated, like probably alien, a colony of aliens, whatever. Like
very advanced intelligence.
Yeah, and then that feeds into the Donovan song, which I fucking love, which is like, all the masters went out and spread their things, and that's where the pantheons of gods come from.
Right.
All that stuff.
Alan Moore alludes to that in From Hell, at the beginning of the Mycenaean civilization. Minoan civilization came from there.
Yep. Right.
All of that
He's
stuff.
walking through London and showing all the little symbols that came from there,
Chapter
right?
4.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've been reading the From Hell Companion. Sorry, that just came up.
No, but so it's kind of funny because that's what you sort of think of, and in this imagining, that advanced civilization, I'm sorry I'm cutting you off, Matt, but that advanced civilization doesn't really seem to be present.
No, and it's
sort of. There's some technology they have in the city that
right, but I mean, like, everything that we just talked about is absent, because this city is run on a figurehead queen, as Jacob alluded to, who is actually, a puppet of the master. And there's the 15 to 20 audience members who watch gladiator fights. And the gladiators are all surface people that were captured in the traps set on the surface.
That's correct.
And there's also the mines where they mine the crystals they need to fuel the city. So there is no rich, lavish, technologically inspiring kind of like world that I've come to expect of Atlantis.
They have the crystal eye that projects, what's going on in the city to the master, to his like crystal TV, and that's really the most high tech we see, aside from the teleporter.
The teleporter, that's the other big thing, right? And
I just wanted to say that we're kind of dancing around some of the quality of the sets, of the whatever. Like, we have to get into this. Okay, so in the making of thing, Michael J. Murphy says they shot this entire thing in a psychiatric hospital outbuilding that they rented and the surrounding woods. So this was all filmed in one, like, essentially a warehouse. where they built these sets and would scrap them and rebuild them, repurpose some of the materials to create this sense of an entire land underground. So whenever you're seeing a gladiator fight, those people are fighting on concrete. So when they're landing on the ground, they're landing on concrete. No real stuntmen. Some swords go flying when there's a parry, and some people got injured here and there. No big injuries, but this is a super small affair. One thing I wanted to mention, technically, that I was totally fucking into, because he said, my point was he said most of the stuff, the effects were in camera. That's not true. When you watch this, that's not true, because you mentioned the teleporters. But for the large part of it, he's being completely honest. Like, I was fascinated by this concept that almost seemed to me like early Lynch. Like, it seemed like something that would be in Eraserhead or the early 6 films, where he would be trying to show that there's minds and a separate chamber of someone else. And he clearly put 2 monitors up inside of a model and built like this model of like mud or like whatever, or paper mache around it, and painted it to be like caverns. So it looks like 2 windows into cavern chambers that are just video playing. I thought that was fucking cool.
It's pretty
cool.
genius. Yeah. It's pretty ingenious.
Like a really cool way around a problem of like, I'm shooting in a mental hospital's warehouse and I need to show crystal chambers in Atlantis. I don't know. I was impressed by that. Like, that was
while we're talking about effects, I wanted to see what you guys thought of like the either stop motion or claymation. What would you even call that machine? Some kind of printing press or rigging?
Wasn't that the slaughterhouse? Or was that the engine?
That was the engine thing.
The engine for the whole.
But the butcher had there was also he got sorry.
Yeah, he got squished in there. But yeah,
you're right. Yeah. That was wow, that's a hell of an engine for an entire underground city. Yeah. Stop motion, like,
right.
Super
it kind of looked
crude.
like out of a Gumby cartoon.
It really did. It totally looked like a Gumby cartoon thing.
Yes. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
Charm ratcheted up 3 notches right there with that.
Yeah.
The whole thing, I had to note, it was like, okay, this is made in 91, but it really looks like a 1970s Sinbad movie. Like
a little bit.
It has that kind of Harryhausen-ish, like obviously very low budget version of that, but yeah.
Yeah.
It looked like it was a Sinbad movie, kind of.
Yeah. I love those 70s Sinbad movies.
Yeah.
Especially with Carolyn Monroe. But we won't get into that right now. Let's talk about audio. I have some issues with the audio, as I always do in these movies. I'm an audio snob. I can watch a film with terrible visuals, but I can't watch a film with bad audio. So I had some issues with this movie, particularly in any scene with more than 2 people in it. Because of the fact that he was shooting in a warehouse. I don't know if he didn't own a boom or what, but like, there is there's 2 problems. There was a lot of room in the audio in crowd scenes, but then he also had a constant, persistent, nagging audio track, music track throughout the entire film, as far as I can tell, to where, so there's kind of like low-fi, low-budget synth washes or whatever throughout the whole film constantly, and then people trying to talk with a lot of room. And I found that challenging at times to follow the story. Am I being a dick about this?
No, not at all. I found that the music, it's like really bad synth, like MIDI with like a timpani that's MIDI that's going all the time. It reminded me of like the music at the Enchanted Forest, but terrible.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can I play just a little bit of like a worst case scenario here for me, where it was a bunch of people trying to talk with music?
Yeah.
The city's in riot!
Someone go there!
The crystals are being destroyed!
Throw down your weapons or join us! No! You will kill yourselves! If you destroy the crystals, the mountains will tremble with the rage of the great god Atlantis! Enough! Throw him into the arena I will deal with you personally.
So Renee walked into some of this and said, "Oh, well, okay, so Fred Willard just died." I'm going to date this here. So we've been mourning Fred Willard because we're a huge Fred Willard fan house. So we just watched Waiting for Guffin with my wife and daughter the other day. But she walked in and said, "Did Corky St. Clair direct this?" Like that scene. Because she's like, it looks like it's a stage play, but it's all being filmed. The whole film kind of feels like a stage play to me.
It does, actually. That's very accurate. Yeah.
That is really accurate.
They're really overwrought sort of set piece props and costumes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So that was my major challenge, was dealing with that audio. What kind of barriers do you guys have? Any barriers? No barriers? You loved it?
I don't know. I didn't really have too many barriers. I think in part because we had done Death Run and I had sort of dabbled a little bit further in the Michael J. Murphy catalog. And so I was thinking about it really in relation to, Death Run mainly and some of his other work and how advanced this was compared to that. This is one of the reasons I think I love Michael J. Murphy is like, this is a guy who needs to make movies and he just keeps making movies and he gets better and he's never has any money. And he's always doing this weird, inventive, how to solve a problem stuff, big dramatic things that happen off screen. And, I don't know. It's, my wife watched it with me too, and she was like, "What the fuck are you watching? Like, what is this?" And I'm like, "No, honey, this is amazing." So
I think Seth brings up a good point because he talked about this in one of the documentaries too, that he almost just has a compulsion to make these movies.
Yes,
like he even called it an addiction of sorts, and he does, and it's. And I guess, you can correctly call him an auteur. He has a vision that is very specifically his, and he needs to do this. And Seth's right.
John Wayne Gacy.
Yeah.
by that description. But yeah,
that's one comparison.
But I also noticed audio-wise that most of his films sound like this.
Yeah.
I think sound is one of the most consistent things in his films, and it's not great. It's pretty lousy.
Yes, and I've been pretty open about that being a barrier for me to really, really dig into somebody is like consistently kind of off audio like that. But I really dug the way that this guy, I'm just trying to think about, how he actually did a production. So like he must have been so fastidious about like mapping out all of these shots, like calling this a B shot or a C shot or D shot, whatever, building that thing, like painting it with the chicken wire and the paper mache and the whatever. Like we're doing these, 72, 122, 158 are all doing today right now, right in front of here. Like he works so hard. He works so hard.
Yeah, he does. And he has, and it's basically just his friends. All the same people are in most of the movies. Like if you look on his IMDb page, it's like for one movie he'll use like different people, like just for that one movie, but then it's always back to the same people. Your Patrick Oliver, Phil Linden, Debbie Stevens. It's just these people that just keep coming back. And I don't know if either of you watched any of the documentaries about him, but and I think some of them were made after his death, and all these people were interviewed, and they were all just had the best things to say about him, and we're just kind of tearing up. And so, he must have been a hell of an interesting guy to convince all of these people to just follow him on this really weird vision.
Like 10, 15, 20 years of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's a pretty long career.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's over 30 films.
Wow.
Wait, so there is a doc, a posthumous doc about him on that channel?
Yeah, I found it. I forget what it was called, but Patrick Oliver narrates it, of course. And No, it was great. It was really, really cool.
Does he narrate it in his like typical villain voice? Is he like?
Of course he does.
Michael
Like that's
J.
his only
Murphy
voice.
Wanted to know what he could do with the film.
That's a pretty good impersonation.
Did anyone? Is he Sartor?
Yeah, he's Sartor.
Did anybody look like? Did he break out? Because he seemed like a good enough actor to actually break out.
Not that I know of.
No.
I don't think. Maybe. I mean, I don't remember looking at his page, but
Like he just has a presence that actually like transcends some of the mediocrity of the writing, or like I remember him every time. Like I saw him, I was like, he was in Mutant City. I remember I liked him in Mutant City. Like that's something in these films to me.
yeah.
Right.
Oh no, he has a charismatic, he's a charismatic actor, and he was the one I watched most recently was called Bloodstream, and he's the lead in that. And he it's a lot earlier. It's like 83 or something like that. But he's the lead in a lot of these.
Yeah. So while we're talking about this, I want to mention a couple other sort of Michael J. Murphy sort of tropes, so commonalities. So we had addressed the whole idea of like mutation, genetic contamination, or some kind of contaminant. Another one. Younger men in short tunics with no pants.
Let's talk about. We talked about this in the first one, right?
Mm-hmm.
My theory was that he was homosexual, and that's why the male gaze was focused on the male form in that first film.
Yeah.
It wasn't as overt in this one, but it was there.
It's definitely there.
It's pretty. Some of those wrestling scenes get a little into the homoerotic as well. And I don't know if we would also include in that category, but we certainly could, the sort of dynamic between the queen and her handmaiden with the pokey bikini thing.
Polita. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how she wears that costume.
It just looks painful.
It's got the points just digging into her boobs. Just not good.
Was she the one, or was it the queen that said that her breasts popped out a few times during filming, Jacob? In the
I think it was the Queen Antea, played by Judith Holding.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she had talked about her boobs popping out during the filming.
Yeah. Which was perfect, because as my inner teenage boy was waiting for that to happen the entire film.
I know.
And I thought I saw nipple a few times. I'm going to be honest with you.
There was a hint.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I agree. There's a hint. Yeah, we saw some edge. Nipple.
Sorry, not nipple, areola.
Areola. Fair enough. So, and then the gladiators, the brother in the opening, sort of close to the opening scene, right? The beginning scene where the brother and sister, before they're kidnapped, are out in the woods. He's wearing like basically a shirt that barely covers the business, and then no pants.
Yeah, Milo and Arian.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep. And then later on the gladiators, and then the sort of the wrestling in the gladiators. It's in there. I'm just saying it's in there. It's
definitely there.
Yeah.
So I found the major plot points of this kind of like the surface folks being contaminated or lesser and harvested for sport and food, which we find out.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little Soylent Green going on in this.
Mm-hmm.
I found that kind of pedestrian, to be honest, like a little whatever. But all the broad strokes of stuff with the master and all of the things like his life cycle and his everything about the master, I was totally into 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you guys are that deep into like Frank Herbert, but there's definitely some fucking Leto II, like God Emperor of Doom stuff going on here, where he's like,
I'm glad you said that, because
Okay. Yeah. I felt like, am I giving this too much credit? But it felt like there was like some tyrant worm god, like trans, or suprahuman element going on, much like Leto II.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I got that as well. But then, all that is really window dressing to the plot point that they found this special crystal called the Bloodstone.
Yeah.
And you find out as the movie progresses, really confusingly, that the master wants to use this bloodstone and the skull of a crystal child to travel in time.
I remember hearing a story once, could even be a myth, of a baby that was found abandoned. She wasn't human. She had unnatural powers. What happened to her? She was cast out and left to die. the time, many people were thrown out of the city, horribly mutated, and been the subject of genetic experiments. Some of these creatures, these mutations, were rumored to have taken the child.
Where did they go?
The mutated ones always went north, across the plains into the mountains of Atlantis, hide from the sight of others.
Is that what that was about? I missed the time travel piece of it.
See, it was when you combine the crystal skull and the bloodstone, you're able to travel back or forward in time.
Ah.
Which, I think I only got that plot point on like the third viewing. There's a lot of it's not made super clear.
Yeah.
Can I play a clip? I think I got that captured.
May I ask why you need this child?
More and more crystals are needed to power the city. The lava, which is its lifeblood, grows more violent each day. Should it become uncontrollable, all life will be destroyed here, and on the surface, which barely sustains life now.
This I know, Master, but the girl.
Find the girl, and I will leave here. Atlantis can be yours.
But Queen Antea.
Atlantis will be yours. If you find the girl.
So that's not the deep cut. There's a deeper one where you're saying, I do have it, where he's talking about like how basically he becomes a god.
Yeah.
So it got really confusing because he has a process wherein he regenerates a new form.
Yes.
And the last time and when he does that, his old form dies off like a snake skin kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when the last time he did that, there was an error somehow in the process. And so he became twins, and his godlike elements went into the female with a crystal skull, and the human flawed ugly parts became the Minotaur of Atlantis.
Yes.
So he's sent out Sartor and his legions. Legion means 6, by the way, in Michael J. Murphy films. His legions of Sardaukar, stormtroopers, nope. Atlantean guard to find this child of the crystal because he wants her skull. He's looking for the crystal, the blood crystal, and the blood skull, essentially, from this failed reproduction of himself. Is that right? Like, I feel like I always had like barely a handle on what was going on.
Yeah, so basically the crystal child, the child of the fire crystal that he's searching for, he sends Sartor up to the surface to try to find this crystal child, who we eventually see as Debbie Stevens. And that Debbie Stevens had a twin. So the crystal child had a twin that ends up being the guy who's basically supposed to be a minotaur, but has like the worst paper mache bull mask on. Like super bad.
Yeah.
But so they're twins that are brother and sister to the master. Yeah, it gets really confusing really fast.
So, you guys both picked up a little more than I did, but the master raped, as he is about to do to the current queen or whatever, their mother. It was he said, when I raped your mother while your brother gets killed in the arena. I made notes on this. Oh no.
Is it though? Like, for instance, the scene that we're referring to in the film as being raped, it seems like the queen is has agency and is offering herself, but does not realize precisely what that entails. Whereas, I mean, it's not like, I don't know. I don't want to get into a weird neckbeard cellar dweller place, but like, isn't she saying like, yes, I will be the host and we will rule together and blah, blah, blah. And then once he does the whole mangina thing from Mighty Boosh, like raises his codpiece and shows her whatever and enters her, she's like, oh fuck, no.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
No, she's all for it until
it happens.
Until the old Greg reveal.
Until old Greg, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which she can change her mind at any time. I'm not trying to be old school. I'm just saying.
Right.
It wasn't like he was
out of left field.
Yeah. He wasn't drinking a 6-pack in his van outside the park bathroom and saw her go in. Like it was a deal they had.
Yeah.
It was a deal.
Yeah.
Can somebody describe the Master's appearance to someone who hasn't seen this?
Oof.
Well, he's got like basically you see his head, and it's almost I kept thinking of it as Gorgon-like, sort of. I don't know if that's entirely correct.
Yeah, I think so. You know, a little Gorgon, definitely. You know, some scales like
green.
Reptilian, green.
Yeah, painted green, reptilian, like really sort of reptilian pronounced, like prosthetics on his face with like super sharp cheekbones and kind of sunken cheeks and those kinds of things. Kind of an extended brain, like kind of a bigger brain with some sort of veiny like sort of things painted on it.
Swamp Thing kind of veininess.
Yeah, kind of something like that. Yeah, and then his chest piece is like a green, sort of a reptilian skeleton. Like it's sort of skeletal, as if the skin was stretched really, really tight.
Yeah,
and green, like it's ghoulish. It's. I was actually quite impressed. That was one of the areas where I thought to myself, boy, Michael J. Murphy's, he's got some costume budget on this one. He really went for it.
Yeah, and then he has the exposed ribs too under his under his cloak that look kind of gross and cool.
Right, that sort of skeletal structure thing. Right.
Yeah. I was super impressed with that. And Seth, I don't think you saw the behind the scenes thing, so you didn't know this, but the actor who was wearing that played the Master said that he had, I think, 3 full days of shooting in that costume. And it was all latex and glued on, and it was hot. And as the shoot progressed, it got riper and riper to the point where, like, on day 3, when they're doing their last shots, it was so rancid smelling. He said it smelled like rotten fish in a dumpster.
Oh.
That between shots, they were coming in with aerosol and spraying them with, like, deodorant or whatever, but between shots, so people weren't gagging when they were doing the scenes with him.
Yeah,
that's so awesome. And of course, I didn't think about it, but of course they have the one costume, and when it comes off at night, they just re-glue it onto him the next day.
Yeah, I think they tried to hose it out, but it didn't. Bacteria is a little more whatever than that.
Right.
So that's gross.
Yeah. Totally gross.
Yeah, so he has that, and he's got kind of the flowing robe, and he sits on sort of a throne-like kind of thing, and in his chamber with the video screens, and he's very severe, kind of when he talks, right? He's got that really.
Oh yeah, he's very intense.
Very intense, and he's mainly green. He's like a green skeleton, semi-lizard hybrid.
I think I have a little audio of him talking because he does have a very strident, whatever tone. Hopefully this is the right clip.
I bring you a gift, Master.
What gift?
The blood crystal.
No. Do not trick me, Sartor.
It is the blood crystal.
Let me see it. Now, quickly. It is. Who discovered it?
A man named Balcom. He had worked in the mines as long as anyone could remember. When he found it, he knew it was something special. He showed no one else. When I saw it, I knew it was what you have been seeking all these years.
This man, Balcom, have you rewarded him?
Yes, Master. He is dead.
This pleases me greatly, Sartor. How may I reward you?
Being your favored one is all I ask.
If that gives you such pleasure, then you can help me again. And now that I have the blood crystal, my powers could be beyond your comprehension. But to realize this fully, I need you to find a certain young woman.
Who is she?
No one in the city. On the surface.
With the scum?
Yes. Somewhere on the surface.
How can I possibly find one girl in so vast a land?
She is not like the others. You will know her.
It's a lot of exposition.
A lot of these clips are really long. I apologize for that, but
that was a big one. That was a central plot point right there for sure. That
it's a big.
So now we know what the deal is. He wants this other person. Where else do you guys want to go with this?
Well, I think basically now, we have the quest, and not only are, the Master's minions going to find this girl, but also previously we saw that Creon, who is the brother and sister that got captured, it's their dad, and he's kind of rallying the peasants, the 4 peasants that are there.
Legion of peasants.
Yeah, tells them a bit of fable about the Crystal Child and says that they need to go north where the mutants are and that she could be hiding there. And so everyone's kind of going to the same place at this point. They're all going north to to Atlantis's Mutant City.
Why are there mutants and what do they look like?
Wow. Well, I think we talked about this in Death Run. I think the mutant costumes were the best thing about Death Run, costume-wise. They looked kind of cool. They even kind of oozed a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
These looked like those, like how they would have actually aged in between Death Run and Atlantis. Totally. Like they just looked like they were kind of disintegrating a little bit. One of them was new and basically looked like Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Which which really made me laugh. But yeah, so they, it's just a few things, rubber cement shit glued to their face. And then, and they basically dress like the Sand People or something, they have big robes and
a lot of paper mache, a lot of plaster of Paris, and a lot of oatmeal.
Yeah. A lot
all
of
painted green. To the point where it would even cover their mouths, and he just didn't seem to care.
Yeah, it was bad. He did a really good job with mutants in Death Run.
He did.
And I think that's why it's also known as Mutant City, because he really nailed it.
That's where that came from.
Yeah, see?
Oh, that's cool.
I think it's hilarious to think about the fact that these were the actual masks from Death Run.
I'm sure he threw nothing away.
Yeah, he did, of course.
15
they have
years
to
later.
be, right?
Wait
because
a
they
minute.
look like it.
Yeah. I've got a box here somewhere. Hold on.
I mean, it's the same point, right?
Money.
Like, why were there even? That was my leading question. Was like, why were there mutants in this?
Well, there were two
secret
things.
answer.
Yeah, there were 2 explanations given. The first one that Seth gave is basically, and that you talked about, that the byproduct of the crystals that fuel the city is toxic, and they vent it. But I think when Creon is talking to the other peasants about it, he says that the mutants were genetic experiments gone wrong, that the subterranean Atlantean ruling class had done, and those experiments they were doing these experiments, they failed, and so they banished them all to the surface world. So we get 2 competing theories in the film about where these mutants come from and why the surface is so contaminated.
So full coverage.
Yeah, we really get full coverage.
Okay.
So pick your fable.
Now, Jacob, did the mutated genetic experiments, was that somehow tied into like the fall of Atlantis or why things started to crumble?
That was, it's funny for a movie that's dealing with the Atlantean legend. It really doesn't concern itself too much as to what made Atlantis sink.
Nope.
It talks about the lava just barely and says, yeah, it's kind of getting out of control, so that might be a bad thing, I guess. And it's not, they don't really give an answer or an explanation to it. Shit just starts falling down, and then, Creon takes all the people to the weird submarines that appear.
Yeah.
That look like they're made out of rock.
Yeah.
And Yeah.
It's just not a great material for a submarine, really.
No, they look like fucking Ben Grimm, like in submarine form.
That's true.
Yeah, not a lot of care is taken to explain it.
Right. It seems to be sort of a kind of a basic morality play, right? It's like the decadence and moral decay of the elites of the city kind of led to the downfall somehow.
Yeah, that's what's set up. No. I'm agreeing with you that that's where this dramatically should have gone. Yeah.
It's not really. It's not. It's just the impression almost. It seems to come from that, but it's not in any way explained in that.
No,
way.
It's us projecting what we expect an Atlantis myth to be. But it's not really there in this movie.
Well, that's what I was tripping out on. Was like everything I've read or heard about Atlantis is this insanely advanced civilization.
Yeah.
But all this is a figurehead queen watching gladiators fight.
Yeah, it's a Roman epic. It's a sword and sandal epic.
Yeah.
Like, it's the decadence of Nero and the fall of Rome, basically, but like projected onto Atlantis.
Yeah.
But somehow the decadence translates into volcanic activity, which whatever.
Well, Matt, you watched his student film, Atlantis, the Lost City or whatever. What was it called?
City of Sin.
And so he, how does Atlantis even figure into that thing? I watched it too, and it doesn't make any sense that it's called Atlantis.
I think there's swords in it, so he just called it.
There are swords, but it's basically just, I don't think context means a lot to him sometimes. I think it's thought of second.
Mm-hmm.
Can I share an audio moment?
Please.
This is when, I gotta be honest, if they're not a villain, I don't remember their names. But there's a female heroine and there's like a gladiator guy, and they're kind of hooking up.
So it's Arian is the girl, and Timor is the gladiator.
Oh man,
really?
If you can get out the bendable action figures right now, I'll give you $100.
Yeah,
show me them. So anyway, sorry, go ahead, Seth.
Real quick, wasn't Ariel? She's also like a
Arian.
Sorry, Arian was one of his stable of actors, right? Was that her? That who I'm thinking of?
Yeah, June Bunday who played Arian is in quite a bit. She's not in as many as Judith Holding or Debbie Stevens is, but she's definitely one of the Mercury players.
Yes, exactly.
If you will.
Exactly.
Is she the one who said that she basically shat talked her way into the lead role by making the lead actress quit like the day before shooting?
I can't remember if that was June Bunday or Judith Holding, but yeah, that was a great story, I thought.
Jesus.
The making of.
So Seth, apparently one of the actresses went up to the lead and said Michael's a complete pig. He's going to treat you like shit. He's kind of sleazy. He's going to do whatever this and that to you. And so she quit the day before shooting and then said oh, Michael, I can do the part.
Oh, wow.
I can do it.
So awesome. I think that was Judith Holding. I think it's who plays Queen Antea.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a brunette.
I could be wrong.
Okay. So can I play a little bit of that audio? So I understand that shooting by firelight is complicated because, you can't control the audio or the lights. So you have to fake it usually with sound effects and some gels and some crumpling of gels and stuff. But listen to this audio. This is them flirting. I call this flirting by crisp bags.
Are you cold, Ariana?
No. How do you know my name?
I heard the slave master calling you. On Timor. It is cold though, don't you think?
The fire keeps me warm.
But when we fall asleep and the fire burns away, we will need each other for warmth.
Then one of us must keep the fire burning while the other sleeps.
Really?
Yes. Don't you agree?
No.
Oh, man, that's great.
I feel like that clip kind of encapsulates my whole issue with the entire film of like just struggling to kind of keep up with what was going on, or just like having to fight. I feel like a senior citizen, like, you know, when senior citizens lose their hearing and then your mental capacity like decays rapidly. Like once you can't socially interact and track people, your mind goes. I feel like my mind went while watching this because I could not track what was happening. And I just felt like I was a participant and a spectator who was not being involved, I guess. And I just kind of kept checking out and like checking my phone, like, oh, wait, I'm watching a movie. All right, come on.
Well, you know, you guys do more audio recording than I do. What would you call that when the dialogue, the music, and the Foley stuff seems like it's on full blast? Every one of them seems like they're at 11. But you can't really distinguish between them. What would you call that? Is that just a bad mix?
I think we call that a bad mix.
Yeah,
okay.
Bad mix.
Bad mix.
Yeah, I had a hard time. Anytime there's a group of people or there was a fire or any kind of environmental sound, he didn't understand how to mix it to where it's ambient sound and conversation on top of that. And it was a struggle for me.
Thank you, my friends. Would you join us?
We cannot leave here, not without consulting the oracle.
What do you mean?
In the sacred cage is the talking stone. We worship its wisdom.
Couldn't you ask it to tell us about the girl we seek?
Maybe.
Yes.
The music cues, the longer the movie went on, the more I would laugh when the same music cue would just blare into the scene.
Yeah,
it's the same one over and over again.
Yeah, that was another hard sell for me, was the Casio thing. But can I play you the one like new song where it's like, oh, that's a new song?
Yeah.
The heroin gets sold in the brothel, I think, or something.
Okay, this is the best music in the whole thing.
This is brothel jams.
Yeah.
Stuff.
So he would have requested, or at least music for that, being like, okay, this is we're introducing the brothel. There's going to be a man on all fours being led on a leash. This is decadence. Like, give me a music cue that just screams decadence.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't have expected that to be the music, but it was, and it worked great actually. I called it 8-bit porno music in my notes.
Stroker 64.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Outside of that music cue, it was mostly that Renfest Casio thing that we heard, which we've heard a lot.
Run over.
Yeah.
So with the brothel, it's a good point to pick up the story again. We know that Arian has been sold to this brothel. There's like a pimp guy that kind of is, I don't know, negotiating a price.
He's the butcher.
He's the butcher. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And then, Arian goes into this room and she realizes that Timur, the escaped gladiator, at that point was in there and saved her from this guy with a merchant that she was supposed to sleep with, ties him up, and then that's when they actually escape and go to the surface world.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a whole Star Wars, Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones arc here that did not land for me at all, where these people are supposed to be a couple that are thrown together by circumstance and swept away together, and that did not land at all. Like, every time I watched it, I was like, oh, that's right, they're supposed to be a couple now.
No, there was no chemistry. It didn't make any sense. Yeah.
No time spent on calling her princess or whatever you have to do to build that goodwill.
No, it's almost like as soon as they were done with the scene, everyone just forgot. Like, literally, the actors and Michael J. Murphy were like,
forgot.
Like 4 days later, he's like, oh, yeah, you guys, fuck it, never mind.
Can I play one scene that kind of disturbed me? So the clip we just heard was after the butcher essentially captures Arian, is that her name?
Yep.
Jacob, and sells her to the brothel against her will, and says, "Give me 10 whatevers now, and I'll take 10 whatever when she's proven as a good whore." And there's this conversation between him and the mistress of the place about, like, he's basically saying, I don't need live flesh.
In exchange for the girl, I'll give you 10 free visits.
I want 20 in gold, or we go somewhere else.
12 free visits?
What do I need with live flesh? I have all the company I need.
Ah, but dead flesh is not so stimulating.
It doesn't criticize.
Nor does it praise you.
That's because it can't tell lies. 20, or we go now.
Oh, very well. Do something with her.
So just to be clear, Arian discovers that this guy's role essentially is to when a gladiator falls, they go to him and they go into a big grind up machine and get made into paste, which the citizens of Atlantis eat.
Correct.
Most of them not knowing, I think, that it's human, just knowing it's protein paste.
Yeah.
Right.
And so she's saying, I'll give you 10 pounds of gold and 10 free visits to the whorehouse. And he's like, why would I even spend money on that? I have all the flesh I want to. The more you peel that onion back there.
Yeah, it's dangerous.
It's a disturbing, disturbing statement.
So you're saying there's some necrophilia going on that he seems to be pretty proud of.
He has no issues porking dead gladiators for free.
And brags about it. Doesn't try and hide it. Yeah.
Yeah. I just found that disturbing. I'm from a small town.
Yeah, it says a lot about you, Matt. You really need to open up your mind, man. It's like,
I know it's 2020 and get woke, but
this is a Michael J. Murphy trope that's been in a few films. It's cannibalism.
Cannibalism.
Yes.
That's one of his big themes.
Is a constant.
Yeah. And while we're mentioning that, there's another one that occurred to me, another Michael J. Murphy trope, which is his absolute indescribably poor fight choreography. I mean, his fight choreography, the one thing that never gets any better is fight choreography. And the gladiators with those comically giant swords, like gigantic swords, at least as long as their body, maybe a couple inches longer.
Yeah.
And then and just the swing at the feet and the jump over the sword, like every gladiator pair did this same move. That's one of those things. I don't know how anybody looks at that and just everybody on set must be going, don't tell Michael about how, he's like, I choreographed this thing myself. It's going to be amazing. He's like, okay, Michael.
Well, I feel like he doesn't do a good job with swords. You think back to the fight choreography and the training sequence on Death Run that are really entertaining. I mean, they're not good. Of course they're not good. But I think that those are executed a little better than
No, they are not. No, it's the same. Right. It's the exact same. I mean, it literally. Do you remember when they did the thing in Mutant City where like one guy would kneel down and put out his arm and then the kid would like jump over his arm?
Yeah.
Or like he'd hook his knees over his shoulders and do sit-ups on his torso. Like,
yeah, of course I remember that sequence. I've made it into a calendar.
I think we all had the eye of the tiger then. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't translate to here though for me at all.
I'm telling you, it's so laughable. I love Michael J. Murphy, but his fight choreography just cracks me up.
Seth, I really want that to be true. I really want that he did all the choreography himself, so no one could say anything.
Or he always had the same fight choreographer who's like, I'll do it for free. Just like, let me have a sandwich. And I like being famous around movie stars. So I'll just do it.
Yeah, I believe there is an outtake in the making of that shows like a parry and the sword flying over, like out of the gladiator's hand and like kind of just nicking the back of one of the spectators' heads.
Yeah.
And when they were talking about how like, this is a concrete floor. We had no stunt doubles. Like, this is all real. Whatever you see, we were actually doing.
Maybe that's why they had to slow it down so much. The actors are like, okay, just go real slow.
Yeah.
But also on productions like this, where it's the classic crew and team, like it has an ensemble like an Ed Wood or a Rudy Ray Moore kind of thing, where you know everyone's there because they love each other and they just want this vision to be executed. And it just there's a real community kind of group vibe to his productions. It doesn't make them good. It probably makes them bad.
It needed more Criswell.
Yeah,
for sure.
More Criswell.
Atlantis will be real in the past and in your future tonight. Look forward and backward. Yeah, I feel like I can't really laud his DIY set building stuff enough, though. Like, I mean, you really need to see like, again, some of those like tricks he did with the video monitors inside of a model. Like, I saw some of that stuff and was just like, that's pretty fucking cool. Like, that's something I don't know I would have thought of as a person 30 years ago with no money. Like, let's get 2 TVs and have 3 VCRs and have them playing these shots of like, here's like 3 gladiators pacing back and forth in a cell, and then have the queen or whatever, her henchman, walking around looking at the camera, like, and put those on 2 TVs inside of a modeled set and have them playing on a loop. Like, that's cool, man. It was cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, it shows that he cared. He had limited resources, but he wanted it to look as good as it could. And I thought it was a little more endearing listening to him in interviews. He's not defending these movies like they're art. He's not. He's kind of saying, yeah, it looks a little silly, you know. I mean, he's pretty nonchalant about it, which I think kind of, I don't know, adds to his charm. Like, he's not taking himself too seriously.
Right.
Yeah, he's not Neil Breen.
He's not Tommy Wiseau or Neil Breen saying, like, you don't get it. The problem is you, not me.
No, he comes right out and is just like, oh, yeah, these are kind of silly, but it's fun. And, you know, we were trying to do this. And I don't know.
And his compulsion, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Like, he feels compelled to make films.
Yeah, absolutely. And he did.
Did he have any commercial success, like in the direct-to-video market or anything?
I think just like what you were saying, you know, being
Hereafter was kind of a small...
Hereafter that you know, direct to video in the Turkish market or something. It's actually the plot of one of his movies, Bloodstream, is about, you know, a character that's basically an analog for Michael J. Murphy, played by Patrick Oliver, and he goes to this like crooked distributor, and it's just like, oh, I got this movie, you're gonna love it, and the distributor says he hates it, but then steals it and sells it to like the Turkish and the Armenian markets, and made like a bunch of money doing that. And I think that's kind of what he did as well. And I think that's the only way any of his movies made any money. I mean, you're not getting a big theatrical release for Death Run, or, you know, I mean. Yeah. So it's all VHS. I think that's the only way any of them made money, if they did. And I bet it sounded like in the interviews that I was reading, it sounded like 1 or 2 of them may have made some money back in the rental days, just from having a weird cover and, you know, 12-year-old kids wanting to rent it.
Okay. So he was more or less doing this out of love the entire time. He most likely was not grinding for filling a market, right? Like, he wasn't like, I'm going to make a movie X because I think it will sell. I think he was actually, would you agree that you think that he was actually doing these out of more love than demand?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems that way. I mean, you know, he seems to tell a very similar story each time.
Yeah, and the fact that he made an Atlantis film when he was like 16, like,
right,
leads me to believe that this was not about a buck for him.
Right, this is a vision he has had for quite some time.
Yeah. Do we miss anything that you guys want to talk about?
Well, I mean, we kind of have to explain, you know, the birthing process.
Yes.
A little bit, and then we have to go to the ending after Atlantis.
You're right.
Guys, you got to at least give the potential viewer some heads up.
Right.
Let's talk about how that birthing goes, Jacob.
Well, I mean, I liked the interviews with Judith Holding in the making of, that she was saying that, well, basically, you know, like you had said earlier, the master, you know, basically gives birth to himself, impregnates Queen Antea, who is going to give birth to a new version of the master, fully grown, by the way.
Yes.
Not a baby.
I love
fully grown. And so she's basically has this oversized dress on and is just about to give birth, and then the master like rips the fabric and pokes his head out, and it's this great reveal that's freaking hilarious. It's really hard not to laugh at.
Like the city is collapsing around them.
Yes, the fall.
When that happens, and then he like births himself out of her dress. And, yeah, very dramatic, high drama.
But then, and before that, you know, he had killed the child of the fire crystal, had dipped her head in acid to burn it off so he would have the crystal skull, so he could technically do his time travel thing, which is subverted by his high priest.
I did not see any of what you just said coming, by the way. Like, I thought it was one of those things where it's like, if you just have her in the room, we're good, right? It's a proximity effect. Nope.
No.
Like, cut her head off, dip it in acid. I need the skull.
Yeah, he needs the skull.
That was shocking to me, excuse me. Like, just like the violent scene in Mutant City was.
Yeah.
That came out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy has consistently shocked me. Whenever I watch one of his movies, there's been something that I did not expect, which I appreciate.
You meddle in my plans and drain yourself of power. But a few rebels are Sartor's problem now, for soon I will be far from here. You have the honor to bear my regenerated body.
This is my destiny.
When I entered your mother, her fertility split in two, and instead of giving me new life, she produced twins, one of which took some of my powers. The other, that pathetic creature you so enjoyed watching, inherited only human qualities. It is your destiny to give me new life, as I claim back that which I lost before.
But what about me?
When he leaves your body, you will die, as our mother died.
No!
You were too young to remember, but she died giving life to my brother and I.
Is it true?
It is your destiny. You should be honored.
I will have it aborted! Ah!
From there, I mean, you know, Atlantis is starting to sink. Creon leads the peasants to the aforementioned weird-looking submarines. They go off and in true Donovan fashion, you know, form the other civilizations that we know of today. But there's a little twist at the end where, Seth, do you wanna give?
Before you mention that, though, I'm sorry, but we've talked about Creon a little bit because we didn't mention him much. He didn't loom large as a figure in this drama, but he wore a headband that was this odd crochet, like, home ec project. Like, I don't know. Did you guys get the vibe that he was like going from Atlantis to Spawn Ranch to start his own thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there was a weird macrame element to his costume, which was really strange.
Yeah, Jack.
I think he also seemed, as well as like Patrick Oliver, he seems to have been a bit of a thespian, maybe a slightly stage trained actor.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's put quotes around all of those.
Community college sense.
Yes, and at a community college level.
Yes.
But yeah, he was very bombastic.
He was very big.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and Murphy associates, I think, that sort of Renaissance hippie aesthetic with kind of idyllic village life. Like that, those two things seem to really go together.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a scene in Death Run that had like a Ren Like they had huts.
It was at the end.
There was a
after
happy
the
place.
Yeah, after he survives the run, and I think they defeat the Savior. They're able to transform society. The Savior's no longer in power, and they're all thatching huts in these sort of linen hippie Ren Fair.
Someone's breastfeeding.
Well,
that's the reveal. Yeah.
Right, that's the reveal. And it's not who in this movie. Is it Sarah Payne? Which one? Who's the actress? It's the same actress. She's the madam who runs the brothel in Atlantis, is the one who carries the Savior's child in Death Run. And at the end, she shows up at the village, and the guy who survived the Death Run says, "Oh, sure, you can live with us." And then she goes in to breastfeed her baby, and the baby reaches up and has the little mutant claw, just like the Savior did.
You guys.
It's the contamination. It's the mutant contamination that also it's an obsession for Murphy. He's it's a trope.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
I would love to dig into this guy's psyche a little bit more. I would love to figure out what drove him and where those tropes and those kind of things came from.
But you were asking about the end. So you were asking about the end.
Sorry.
That's okay. So, and Jake, you grokked this film better than I did for sure. But so Atlantis collapses and everybody's getting into the stone lifeboats.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow the master, like
Das Boulder.
He what?
Yeah.
Das Boulder.
Yeah,
Das
right.
Boulder.
Exactly.
Well, the master needs the crystal skull and the bloodstone, and I'm pretty sure that the high priest Sartor takes that.
Takes it away, and then like joins them together to initiate the time travel thing that's going to happen when that happens.
That's right.
And the fact that you pointed out that it was based on time travel made the end make more sense to me, because at the end, because I was like, wait a minute, what the fuck just happened? Because so all the people get in basically the people get in that, but then the high priest Sartor does this thing, and he appears in this graveyard and starts looking around and has all these sorts of glimpses of basically modern day London, I guess.
Yeah.
Must have. And it's like, oh, there's a homeless guy, there's pollution, and there's like, misery and suffering and trouble and all this stuff. And he kind of looks around and then somehow he is there. He like has a cap on or something. Like he gets himself to London and he's looking around like, yeah, this is my kind of place.
It is. And then he blends in with a Yankees cap for some
reason.
Yankees
cap, right. It's like Hannibal Lecter at the end of Silence of the Lambs. He just sort of disappears into the crowd.
Yeah. No, but you were right. And I love the montage of what he saw as the future. It was like a strip club, some fire trucks, a guy with a blue mohawk, like, oh, punk rock too,
Yeah, cool, because I saw a human-sized green worm come out of a woman's vagina like 5 minutes ago. But okay. Yeah, this is trippy.
Yeah. Such a good point.
Yeah. So apparently, all the other people survived, right? They landed somewhere.
Yeah.
And then this guy survived. He moved into the future and is going to go wreak havoc somewhere.
Well, they all started Dharma Initiative posts wherever they landed.
That's right.
Oh, that's right. Lost didn't commit to that, did they?
And the internet was never the same.
Now I'm just trying to remember all the people that Donovan mentions in that song. It's the magician, the farmer.
Yeah. God, I love that song.
Oh, it's such a good song.
I love Donovan, to be honest with you.
I do too. I'm a huge Donovan fan.
Okay, so we covered the whole film, I guess. Right?
It's only 86 minutes long.
Yeah.
Wait, how long is it?
Is it 86? It's like 8.
No. It's not even 80 minutes. It's like 79 minutes long.
79 minutes. Yeah. It's 79 minutes long.
If there are no further comments, I think we can do final judgment.
All right.
I'm moving from left to right visually. So, Jacob.
Well, it's no surprise to anyone listening, but my verdict is that's cool. I loved this. I kind of love all of his movies. I don't understand why he's not a better known D-list director. I I would really like to think that as silly and all over the place the production values are on this, I really want this to have been his magnum opus, like you said, that he tried to make this film in 1967. He just couldn't quite do it. He had to tinker with it for many years, and then finally gets the gang back together for one last con and takes this movie and makes it. And I would like to think that he liked the result, even though it didn't come out, it didn't get a proper release. I hope that he found some kind of fulfillment in making this. And I just really enjoyed it. I like his aesthetic. I like the way that he does things. I think it's really entertaining. Audio issues aside.
Yeah. Fair enough. Seth.
I have to essentially agree. Again, no surprise, I don't think, but it's cool. I just agree. Michael J. Murphy, as we've talked about already, he's doing this out of passion. He has to do it artistically and creatively. He has to make these movies, and he is very consistent in a lot of ways, which I really appreciate. And he is very creative. He's very inventive. He does a lot with a little, and he has sort of a bag of tricks that I think are a lot of fun. And he's got some weak spots that show up again and again. But even that winds up being part of the fun. It's hard not to love something that is, made with so much passion and so much care.
Good call. I'm going to be the voice of dissent here and say that this is trash.
This happened last time we were on the show too. We were Jacob and I were aligned, and you were on the other side.
Was this Demon Cop or?
Yeah.
You guys both said Demon Cop was trash.
Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely did.
Monstrous people. Okay. So Michael J. Murphy, I'm completely on board with the guys that he is utterly disarming and charming, and his love for film and his passion for filmmaking wins your heart over. But the end result did not work for me just because of some audio issues and the audio. Honestly, I can take a convoluted plot if I can hear what's being said. I literally had a hard time following the story because I couldn't understand what people were saying in most scenes. So I found my rule is when I'm doing a show for the movie, I don't want to touch social media. I don't want to have a distraction. I want to give 100% attention at least once to the film. And I found myself reaching for my phone a lot because I was checking out from the story. So while I have boundless admiration for this guy's set design, his moxie, his workarounds, his inventive little neat things he did to create illusions of multiple things happening on screen at once. I wanted to like it because of the weirdness of the master and his gross vagina horror story. I love those parts of it, but the other 60 minutes I can't buy. So for me, it's trash.
That's fair. It's a very nuanced take. But I understand. I understand what you're saying. The parts do not equal a good sum. The sum is not greater than the parts.
We didn't talk a lot about the look and feel of it. I mean, we did, but we didn't. But all of the gladiator scenes, which there are a lot of. Was this guy a pilot in an airplane? I don't know. Yeah. But the flat lighting, there's this flat garage floodlight lighting on most of these scenes of these gladiators. And again, we mentioned the stiff choreography and it felt so flat to me, and the lighting felt so cold and just unnuanced, and I just had a hard time buying it. It felt like Renee said, it felt like a staged, it felt like a screened, a filmed stage play, I guess. Not a great play either. That's why Corky St. Clair came up. It looks like it's a play They just like threw some floodlights on and filmed it. And if you were at your community college theater and seeing it, you might be kind of forgiving and say, "Oh, it's pretty good." Like he actually got the cod pieces really, 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 really right. But yeah, I just it was visually ugly enough in that way, and audio was hard enough to follow that I just have to say no. So I have an antidote. We have not talked about. Hello? I don't know if that's the dog or somebody knocking. Might be the dog's tail. Is that Callie? That's Callie. Okay. So we have not talked about this director that I really like called Steve Barkett. Have you guys heard of Steve Barkett?
I don't think so.
So he's made a couple films. One's called The Aftermath from 1982, and one is called Empire of the Dark from 1990. And he is this guy that he's not Neil Breen level or Tommy Wiseau level of like ego, but like he tried to cast himself as this definite type of role, right? So The Aftermath is the one that I'm recommending as an antidote. You can see it on Prime for free. And he plays an astronaut who was out in space, much like Charlton Heston or whatever. And he comes home and to find that the world has blown itself up in World War III. And there are mutants everywhere. See the connective tissue here. And if I were to describe him physically, I would say that he looks like, as a leading man, a cross between Dennis Franz and Chris Evans. In every fucking sense. And so he lands. It's very much like
a real weird combo.
Yes. And it's very much Omega Man meets Planet of the Apes. Like he lands, he's trying to figure out what the hell's going on. He meets some survivors. Sid Haig is the leader of the rapey, murder all the men, capture all the women gang of bikers. It's a strange little film. And this guy tried to cast himself as an action hero several times, and it did not land. But they're highly entertaining. But this to me was like a sense of like, I guess my reasoning behind this one would be that like he spent a little extra coin to buy like library music that's like orchestral, like what you expect to hear in an adventure film from 1955 through 1970, like just lush library music. And he'll do these shots of like LA where, like this, it's painted ruin and then a couple like real photos of the skyscrapers or taller buildings, like the Capitol building, whatever in it. And like these kind of matte shots of just like, he just made a little bit extra effort to like, you can tell it's not good, but it's good enough to where it's charming.
Okay.
And so in the film, he hooks up with, Lynn, I don't know how to say her name, Lynn Margulies. It was Andy Kaufman's girlfriend, played by Courtney Love in the movie. Oh, yeah. But before, she's Johnny Legend's little sister. But before she met Andy on Breakfast with Blassie, she did this film. And she plays his girlfriend that he meets, right? And she's like 22 and he's like 40. So there's a little Neil Breen kind of stuff going on with that creepy, I'm the older dude that all the chicks love. But anyway, it's totally charming and bizarre and weird, and I recommend it and also Empire of the Dark, which is an even weirder movie from 90 where he is fighting cults, and he goes into the underworld and fights demons and stuff with a mustache. So, yeah, The Aftermath is my antidote.
All right.
Well, guys, thanks for diving back into the Michael J. Murphy pool with me.
Anytime.
A pleasure. An absolute pleasure.
I'm hoping that Jacob's going to write a book about his filmography or something.
I think he's on his way.
I feel like there's something going on here. I feel some sparks.
Yeah, it's in the works.
Well, do you guys have any last parting words for anybody? Like any kind of stuff we can look up for you online? Projects, blogs, tweets, Instagrams, stuff you want to share with the folks?
I don't have a SoundCloud to promote.
Your raps are so good, though. They're so good.
It's just for me, man. It's just for me. It's just for me and my heart. That's all.
And your true family.
Yeah.
I got nothing. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure other people are also kind of feeling this. I'm keeping myself occupied by doing a lot of projects, but not making a lot of content. Not really doing anything that I'd want to share with anybody.
Yeah, I found myself doing that a lot as well.
Yeah.
Okay, well, you guys, thank you so much. It was great to see you and to talk to you. And,
Absolutely.
For That's Cool, That's Trash, I'm Matt Howell.
I'm Jacob Balcom.
And I'm Seth Garon.
And you folks out there, stay home if you can. Stay safe, stay sane, stay trashy.
That's cool.
That's trash.
It's garbage, folks.
You're supposed to be sleeping.